Hi everybody, I'm Alex from the Human Villages Cultural Association. In my previous videos I have already touched certain arguments which are very important for the development of human villages. And one of the arguments was that all of us as human beings, we are in a kind of middle stage between group life, which is very similar to animal life, and between individual life, in which each of us develops his own unique individuality or personality. So let's say we can distinguish also between personality and individuality. And this distinction is very useful for the following things I would like to talk about. So personality is rather something when we start to take ourselves very seriously like a person. So we are grown up as member of the different kinds of groups. We are a member of a family. We are a member of, in the past, we were a member of tribes, which now is not anymore existing, but we are still member of a people. We are member of a nation which speaks usually one language. We are many times members of some religion, which sometimes the religion and the nation state cannot be identical. So not always there is a perfect harmony between these groups, but let's say we belong to different groups which are also created during life. For example, because of our business, we belong to a company. Because of hobbies or sports, we can belong to some club. Because of friendships, we can create something new, a new kind of group, which was not existing before. We can create our own family. So we have the family that we were born in, and we have also the new family that we are creating. So let's say group life is still very, very important and very dominant. On the other side, we are trying to find out who we are, and this is very often related to developing your own opinions. We try to look at the world in our own way, and very often this brings us into opposition to the groups that we belong to. So very often we develop our personality by being against something. For example, we strive against some rules of our family, which makes us, uh, let's say, which doesn't make our family very happy, but it helps ourselves to know better who we are, or at least we think that we know better who we are through such a process, by being more rebellious, by being against things, against certain rules imposed by government, by religion, by society. And it's unavoidable that we must go through such a process in which we put into doubt all the so-called truths that were imposed to us previously as absolute truths that we just have to accept to be a good family member, to be a good citizen, to be a good believer. I already in another video talked about the fact that when we want to create new communities, this attitude of being against things, which without any doubt will be partially part of our character, we should rather not cultivate it more than we already have it, and we should better strengthen ourselves, focus on what we want and not so much on what we are against, because this, let's say, attitude of being against something, this reactionary attitude, is not helpful in the further progress of our own development. So when we create a human village, I don't think it's very useful to create like a autarky, to try too much to be independent from the rest of the society. So we should better focus on doing things better in a way that also others can be impressed by our results, instead of being reactionary and let's say trying to keep distance from the rest of the society. So our attitude should be like an open attitude, and not an attitude which is trying to close ourselves in our own private world. And another argument that I was talking about was that we need more free time to develop ourselves, and that very often in our daily life, in our modern daily life especially, we are absorbed by an incredible never-ending chain of occupations, which is of course our business and our daily life, like our maintenance of our body and of our living conditions, which is of course necessary, but also it is filled with a lot of rather useless activities, which could be solved better if we would collaborate with our fellow human beings. And I had mentioned as example, for example, the daily cooking, or garden work, or bookkeeping, or cleaning, let's say washing and cleaning. These are things that we have to do on a daily level, and if each of us does this alone in his house, it's not efficient. For example, cooking is a very good example. It's not very efficient to cook 3 hours a meal. If you include also shopping and cooking and serving and cleaning the dishes, it's about 3 hours or even more that you spend of your day to eat a meal that you and like other 1 or 2 people will finish in 10 to 15 minutes. So when we want to do the cooking, which is of course the best we can do, because the quality will really be much superior than if we buy something ready from the supermarket, it's really worth it. But we should do it immediately for more people. So in old times, when we were living in big families with 15 people, and the mother was cooking, that was efficient. But in the modern style family, which very often is just 2 people, maybe mother and kid, or father and kid, or 3 people, 4 people, how many? Like, families with more than 4 people have become really rare, and it's really not very efficient to do all this cooking for just so few people. That's why so many people, they come to a point to order ready food from outside, from a restaurant, or to eat processed food, frozen, or they put it in the microwave or whatever. So it's all like more unhealthy than the real good old home cooking stuff. But it's faster and you lose less time, and this is the only thing like we have time for when we are busy, when, for example, both parents are working. So in a community, we should collaborate in a cooperative way to avoid this waste of time. So when we do something which is useful for everybody, we should not do it alone. same is, for example, garden work. What's the meaning of just cutting the grass of your own garden? Why don't we just, let's say, split the work in some way or get organized together with a professional to do the garden work for the entire village? So let's say in small towns or even in bigger towns, of course, this kind of works are organized for the community level, but then each of us in their own garden, they have to do all the garden work by themselves, unless they want to pay someone for it, which again is not efficient to call just one person for your own garden. So usually only people with a very good income can afford this. So let's say by collaborating in an efficient way together, we can create like a lot of time, a lot of free time, so that it could even happen to us to be bored sometimes. And this was an argument of another video where I was saying that very few people in our days are really bored ever. So boredom has become an experience unknown to most people, because we are all the time busy, and when we are not busy, we are all the time watching into our phone and scrolling down social media. So we are kept busy even in the moments that we are not busy. And that's why all this organization is, of course, helpful, but not enough. So when we want to make some steps forward as a human being, we have to do also some personal efforts. And this is something I want to talk about today specifically. How to come into a situation in which you have what we call free time. So it will never come automatically. You can get organized better, and you may theoretically have a lot of free time, but in the end, your day will pass like one continuous line of let's say action, which is never interrupted if you don't interrupt it yourself. So we must learn to interrupt the continuous flow of action in which we are entangled during the day, from the moment we wake up until the moment that we sleep. And it is necessary to do this consciously. It won't happen just by itself. Some people who are very stressed, because stress is nothing else than being continuously exposed to this continuous line of activity, which then many times it's even multiple. So you are modern people are forced to be multitasking. So it's not just one line of activity, but maybe 4 or 5 lines together. So it's your homework, it's your friends, it's your business, it's maintenance of all the things you own. You are completely bombarded by demands of the world that is surrounding you. And if you are not able to put priorities, this can lead easily to the so-called stress. And some people that cannot stand this stress anymore, they say, oh, I will escape from this. I want to go to a place where there is nobody. I want to stay alone on an island for 1 month and just relax. But even there, when you have really nothing to do, if you don't interrupt consciously this continuous stream of activity, even alone on the island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, you will never relax. You will never find free time, not even 5 minutes per day. The only way to get the free time under any circumstance is if you impose it with your own free decision. And let's say, where do we find the energy to do that? We can find it exactly there where we usually collocate egoism. So let's say already life has made all of us egoists. So we just have to apply that in the right moment. So instead of applying our egoism to trying to buy always a nicer car, to have nicer clothes than our friends, to be better in everything, we can also apply this power of egoism, which usually is, of course, something negative. We can apply it to impose ourselves as human beings and to take, under any circumstances, free time for ourselves. So we just force egoistically any kind of situation in a way that we cut ourselves out of it. So we must learn to be able to cut ourselves out of the general complex of never-ending actions and necessities and demands. And this can be done only by a free decision, by being you have to be tough. You have to say, no, I just don't do now what I'm supposed to do. So at this point, of course, we are at a very dangerous point of our evolution, because we could make our egoism even worse than it has been already before, and to become a completely antisocial person. So how do we avoid to become just an incredible egoistical asshole and who doesn't care what other people need? How can we avoid that? The only way to avoid it is to become very good observers of what is going on around us, and of what exactly other human beings want from us. So we must focus on the human part. And when we focus on the human part, what do I mean? Many times other people confront us with certain demands which are actually not necessary to true human life. But in that moment, of course, they may think that what they want us to do is incredibly important. But if we focus on the true values of life, we can easily understand that nobody needs that stuff. Nobody needs it. So why do we do it? I don't know. Because as a humanity, we have lost the true meaning of life, and we are doing a lot of useless stuff. which actually we don't really do for ourselves. We do it for someone else, and nobody knows who the other is. We all do it for each other, but nobody is the subject of this action. So it's like if we act for some authority which is not human. So when we get focused on our own humanity, we can also recognize true human feelings and thoughts and intentions in other people. And when one of our fellow human beings comes to us with a truly innocent and sincere thought or feeling or need, then of course we should be always ready to help our brother or our sister in what she needs. But when people come to us with a lot of, let's say, superficial requests, which can, yes, they are part of our daily life, but even if we don't do it, nothing will happen. Nobody will really have any disadvantage of it. I think sometimes we can just say, okay, I just don't do that now. And in that moment, I immediately become the owner of very precious free time. And this free time helps us then to focus even more on who we truly are and what are our true goals. So the whole point is that we must start to distinguish between the truly human essence of ourselves and all the rest, whatever this rest may be. And then we can connect to each other on this newly discovered human level. So we have to start to connect directly from our human essence to the human essence of the other. And that's the only way how we can always more and more become independent of all the other bonds which connect us to other human beings in a way which is not individual. So the more we go from the group life to the individual life, we must become more aware what a human being is and how we can connect directly from one human being to the other human being. And I think it can become very obvious to everyone that on this path we automatically free ourselves from all the negative side effects of group life. Because group life, of course, has a lot of positive sides, because group life has been for thousands of years, let's see, the bondage, the connection that was keeping societies together. So it's not something we have to, let's say, hate or say, wow, this was really wrong. No, it was true. It was important in the past. But the more we go on as individuals, we have to substitute the previous bonds from, let's say, the traditional bonds, which are very, let's say, conservative. Because the only way to maintain the traditional bonds is to have a very conservative lifestyle. So without being against those bonds, We have to establish new bonds which are consciously built between one individual to the other individual. And as I said before, like this, we free ourselves automatically of all the negative sides of the group life, which is, for example, all the problems that exist between the genders, between men and women, all the problems that exist between different races, different countries, different cultures. So by creating direct connections on a purely human level, all these, let's say, negative attitudes like racism and similar things disappear, because it cannot exist on a human level. Because on a human level there is no race. Because there is only one race, the human race. And the same thing is between genders. Of course, we are men and women, but when we focus on the human essence, this is not something essential. And we can then apply it to all fields of life, to people from different religions, from different professions, from different ideologies. The more we reach out for the essence, everything that separates us disappears, and the only thing that positively separates us is our individuality. So just imagine a union of three individuals who are connected consciously to each other. And now we can also say how this connection is called. It's nothing else than what we call love. But love cannot be, let's say, developed just because we wake up in the morning and we say, from today on I must love everybody. But it's a procedure which we must learn, and it needs also a lot of training. And one of the basic steps on this path is to distinguish between, let's say, essential human needs and non-essential, not human needs. So that was what I wanted to talk about today. And in the next videos, I would like to talk about more practical, let's say, techniques, how to proceed on this path. Thank you for your attention. Bye-bye.